All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Another Bourbon Show. I'm excited. It may not seem like I'm excited because I'm really fucking tired, but I'm actually, in all honesty, really excited for the next couple shows. This is the first episode of our Rye Month. We're doing a month of ryes. We recognized a while back that the only rye we've ever done on the show was actually Sazerac rye, which just barely meets the criteria of Sazerac. And there's the bottle that, or the cork that Namoff broke because he's a goddamn rookie. He doesn't know you got to twist it while you pull it out. You would think somebody who throws 400 cases on a Tuesday would know that, but
the cork was like, it's
that.
like rock solid, man. I don't know what happened to it.
Also, I wouldn't think he would know that, just to be clear.
Oh, okay. So we're getting ready to start a month of ryes, and tonight we're going to be starting with one that I think everybody should have. It's a good rye. So, Steven, let's get started with that label rating. What you think about that bad boy right there?
Well, I mean, it kind of looks like a dollar bill, but not really. Kind of looks like a Monopoly money or something like that, like wrapped around a bottle. You got the little picture of the old dude, which I don't usually like, you know.
He's a judgmental looking fuck too, isn't he? He looks like he's judging you.
Yeah, he's pissed that he's on funny money and not real money, you know, kind of thing. Yeah. He's like, fuck this board game money that I'm on. And that's kind of like the vibe of the bottle. The vibe of the bottle is just kind of like, fuck you, dude. Like, like you're buying this shit. We both know what you're doing here, okay? This is not top shelf stuff. And it's, you know, it's okay. I'm gonna say this is a 3 out of 10. But I'm not gonna rag on it too hard. It just kind of is what it is. I don't think it's like, I'm not gonna say it's ugly. It just looks real plain. This is like, there's a lot of bottles that like I say look plain because they're just not standoutish. This just looks really plain. It's like if you just like Googled, you know, whiskey label and just like took the first one and slapped it on your own bottle, it'd be something like this.
Yeah.
The font and everything is just kind of like boring to me. I do like that I think I like the Bonded more than the regular Old Overholt though. I'll say that. But this is not you're not looking at the label a lot when you buy this whiskey.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I give it a 3 out of 10. Pretty unremarkable. But a little better than the standard offering.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on this one. It's not a great label. You know, when you were talking through the label, I was thinking back through like the history of Old Overholt, and so I'm not going to go too in depth, but I will say that like it's original. So a lot of ryes are originally from the north. They are not like Kentucky is not home of rye. Kentucky is home of bourbon. Rye is a like wheat type of a grain that is naturally grows in the northern areas. And so Old Overholt came out of Pennsylvania. And I do kind of wonder how much the like Pennsylvania Quakers like had an influence on like the history of the bottle, and maybe that's represented in the label too. I don't know that. But it is supposedly the oldest like continually maintained brand of whiskey in the United States. It's been operating continuously.
I thought we said that shit about Michter's.
No, they have not. Michter's was not continually operated. There was at least a 10-year period where Michter's was completely defunct and did not operate anymore. So nice try though. Nice try.
I think Overholt's splitting hairs here then.
That could be.
They're like, we're the oldest one that starts with 2 O's. If you don't count, like...
But Old Overholt it was originally out of Pennsylvania. It is now a Beam Suntory product. So it is made in Kentucky at this point. This particular bottle is there's a couple things to know about this one. First of all, it's bonded, so we know it's 100 proof. It is a straight rye whiskey, so excuse me, it is a straight rye whiskey, which tells you some about it, but it's also bottled in bond, so we know it's aged 4 years. We do not know the mash bill. The only thing we know about the mash bill is that it's at least 51% rye. If there's some combination of barley and corn, maybe, we don't know. But the SRP on it is $24, and you can find this at any like legitimate liquor store. You may not find it on the shelf at a grocery store. You may not find it on the shelf at a gas station that sells liquor too. You might, but if you're at an actual liquor store, they're pretty much going to have the bottled in bond 100 proof version of this.
I will say that I have not seen it on the shelf. And now
have you tried?
I have, yeah. And
Oh.
I typically have just seen the Old Overholt because I know we talked about that like a while back on the podcast whenever Kenny was on. And so I would look every once in a while for Old Overholt. Haven't got it yet. Haven't tried it yet. So this will be the first time tonight. But whenever I do see it out there, it's just a regular Old Overholt. I have not seen the bonded on the shelf, at least on the Missouri side.
Oh, okay.
So for what it's worth.
Maybe being on the wrong side of the river is the cause of that. Maybe I'm just so used to like knowing exactly which shelf it is on at my favorite liquor stores. Maybe that has something to do with it as well. I don't know. But why don't we go ahead and give it a sip? Give it a taste.
Let's do it. Cheers.
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 Pretty sweet smell on the nose.
Which you don't expect with it being a rye. So ryes are more known for their spicy flavor than sweetness. Rye is naturally a spicy grain. So a rye whiskey is going to have that spice, which is why which is why ryes make for such a good Manhattan mixed drink. Rye is pretty much the only whiskey I use when I'm making a Manhattan.
What? Now obviously I know this as somebody who's on a bourbon podcast, but would you explain for the listeners, Dan, what makes rye what makes it a spicy grain?
Just the grain itself, right? Like it's if you were to try rye bread, it would have a peppery flavor in the bread. If you were to make a cake out of ground rye instead of ground flour, it would have a peppery flavor in that cake.
But do you know chemically at all why? I guess maybe this would have been a question for Alan Bishop last week.
That would have been a great question for him. Like chemical compounds and shit like that, I don't fucking know. I just know that the rye grain has just when I say spicy, in this context, I'm talking about pepper heat type spice. Now I will say that one deviation of that, generally speaking, rye is a spicy grain, and the whiskey that you make from it is spicy as well. The one caveat, if you will, to that is a lot of MGP products, doesn't matter which MGP product, if it's an MGP product that's rye heavy, it's going to have some spice to it, but it's going to have a lot more sweetness from that rye also. And the reason for that, supposedly, from what I understand, is that MGP actually uses a European rye instead of an North American rye. And that European rye has a a slightly different taste profile to the grain itself, which does translate over to their rye whiskeys. And I mean, if it's hard to beat an MGP rye, their ryes are so, I'm going to tip my hand. We're doing some blinds later this month. And I really wanted to get a bottle of Rossville Union rye. And I tried for 3 weeks straight and could not come up with a bottle of Rossville Union. But Rossville Union is an MGP rye, and it is so goddamn good. And I really wanted you guys to experience how good that particular rye is. But yeah, that's the only caveat to rye being spicy, is that the MGP ryes from Europe do have a very special sweetness to them.
So
as
would you
opposed to a standard
would you
pepper.
relate this kind of to closer as an MGB product? It's this rye compared to other
No,
ryes out there, because I don't get a lot of that like pepperiness, spiciness.
when you taste
Like
it,
I
you don't.
thought. No, what I do, but it's very like it's sweet. It's a lot sweeter than I assumed it would be.
See, I get a lot
Oh,
on the finish. I get a lot like right now. It was probably like a minute and a half to 2 minutes ago. I last took a drink, and I get a lot of black pepper just hanging around my mouth, and a little bit of salt even.
hmm
I get like
So,
almost like a peanut, like maybe that saltiness, like a peanut. Yeah.
well, that's the Jim Beam yeast that's probably creating that nutty flavor to you. But I get a lot of pepperiness as soon as it touches, as soon as it touches any part of my mouth. The first thing I get is that pepperiness. That subsides, and then I pick up some caramel and some sweetness. But then on the finish, it's back to a little bit of a peppery spice. But it's not like a burn type of a spice, just a little bit of a pepper type of a little bit of a pepper type heat. But what I don't get, and one of the reasons I like it so much, is an ethanol burn. I don't I get a little bit of ethanol, but just ever so slightly. But I mean, when you consider the fact that this is 50% alcohol, that's not so bad. I've gotten more ethanol burn from 80 proof things that I've drank than I have this.
For sure, it's good. It's the first time I've ever had it too. I haven't seen the bonded out a lot in my neck of the woods, but I've seen the regular rye. I've always wanted to try it. It just never felt like bending down to grab it. I'm like, oh, I'll just grab this instead.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being lazy.
There is an Old Overholt that is aged 11 years that I have been fighting tooth and nail to get a bottle of and have not been able to get it yet.
Tooth and nail.
I have been, I'm not shitting you. So it's common knowledge at this point that I work for Penn State. The state of Pennsylvania has a really, really awesome, fuck you, Ryan. The state of Pennsylvania has a really great alcohol control board website. And there are people that I work with at Penn State that I have asked to drive like 3 counties over, like to grab a bottle for me to ship it back to me. And they're just like, I'm not driving an hour and a half to get you a bottle of rye whiskey. And I'm like, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
So next time I have to go out to State College, I will be doing it. But yeah, and that's like a $70 bottle. But
we should do a road trip
else,
sometime. Go through Michigan, Ohio, all the controlled states.
Yeah. Maybe even like on our way back, drop down to North Carolina, circle back through.
Go up to Toronto, Canada, get some Blanton's Gold.
We'll do live shows the whole way, the controlled state tour.
From inside state controlled liquor stores. I like it. So that's the only, like that aged 11 years. That's the only Old Overholt that I know of that's like above that $30 price point. And again, I mentioned it to you guys before we started recording, but Old Overholt is something that I very, very, very rarely sip neat. However, in my opinion, there are only 2 ryes that you should ever make Manhattans out of. And Old Overholt Bonded is one of them. And I'm going to go ahead and drop my ice cube in. I can't believe you 2 fuckers don't have the ability to make a goddamn Manhattan.
Yeah, I'm out of vermouth. I didn't even realize it.
I threw mine out in solidarity with Ryan, so fuck me, I guess.
Well, next week, this is not by accident. Next week, we're going to be drinking the Rittenhouse Bonded. And those are the two ryes that I think every Manhattan should be made of. To me, there's no reason to, like, are there better ryes to sip neat? Yes, there are. But do they taste better in a Manhattan? Not in my opinion. Like, to me, the best absolute ryes to make Manhattans out of are those two. So next week on the show, you two should have a Old Overholt Manhattan and a Rittenhouse Manhattan, along with drinking the Rittenhouse.
I'll save this then.
Yeah, there you go.
I could drink this whole thing though.
It's good, right?
It's good. Yeah, I might drink the whole thing. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, stop by
There's
Benny's. Benny's has got to have.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they do.
I'm checking
feel like
websites for you guys because apparently y'all don't know how to use the fucking internet. A goddamn IT dude doesn't know how to use the internet.
Yeah.
No, he uses a typewriter for everything and then files them in the boxes behind his left shoulder.
I didn't. You know, we're doing a late show tonight for the listeners at home, but I didn't think we'd get a fucking typewriter joke from Ryan, a filing joke.
You know, I didn't think we would get a joke from Ryan. Something that actually classifies as a joke.
It had a beginning, a middle, and end. I wasn't confused. It was pretty good for Ryan.
If you like that typewriter joke, you'll definitely love this next typewriter joke.
Yeah, they have it available online. But Wine and Cheese Place doesn't let you like select, like just look at the stock at one of their stores. Yeah. But I would guess if you, I mean, their main store is still Clayton. I'd head over there and they probably got it there.
I know that they just got in like 3 different bottles of like Maker's Mark private selections.
Yeah, yeah. One of them's a St. Louis bourbon. No, that one was with Rack House, I guess. But Wine and Cheese Place is great. I love them.
They sound super good. There was one, like you
chocolate
guys,
torte and cherry pie or some shit like that.
Caramel torte, yeah, caramel torte like 4, I think. So they've done it before, I guess. But do you guys know about that new stave that they're using? Like the French oak staves are gone. And I think mocha staves. I'm sorry. Mocha staves are gone. And it's replaced with something else if I forget. I didn't know that until I read this email.
No, you got me, man. I didn't know.
Yeah, the mocha staves are now gone and it was replaced with something else. I can tell you in 1 second.
I'm going to start drinking my Manhattan. If this looks like a giant glass of a Manhattan, it's because it is. So
Dan likes to drink.
No, so here's the thing. When I drink a Manhattan, I do like to drink, but part of it's because, okay, so for the listeners and probably Steven, who probably doesn't know how to make a goddamn Manhattan, since he doesn't know how to use the internet, but Manhattan is 2-to-1 whiskey to vermouth with a few dashes of bitters, and then I garnish with Luxardo cherries. Well, I have a jigger, and
Jesus Christ, Dan, it's 2021.
Yeah.
That was low-hanging fruit, Steven. Really low-hanging fruit. So anyway, so I have a jigger, and I just find it easier to fill the jigger twice with whiskey and then once with vermouth. It's just easier for measuring. And that results in 4 ounces of rye whiskey and 1 ounce of vermouth.
It's easier to measure if you just do the whole bottle, dude.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. And don't do what Steven did and do not buy shitty vermouth. Get a good vermouth. I'm not going to say that this is the best vermouth on the planet. this is a really good vermouth. Um, yeah,
I
you
feel like
maybe.
I feel like vermouth is like a misunderstood or misrepresented or underrepresented thing because I went into a local liquor store that I won't say the name of here, and they did not know what vermouth was, or at least the person working at the time. I can't say that like the whole store didn't, obviously,
Yeah.
but the person working at the time, I was like, "Where's your section that would have vermouth in it?" Because I was over by like different liqueurs and stuff. It wasn't that big of a place. And then the guy was like, what? I don't know if there was like a translation issue or whatever, but it amounted to him like looking around with me for a little bit and being like, we have none.
Oh, they had vermouth. I guarantee they had vermouth. Um, Now I will say that there are lots of places, lots of like local family-owned liquor stores, and their vermouth section might consist of 4 different varieties, and that's it. Um, that is quite common. But I mean, I think Casey's has goddamn at least one option of vermouth, and it's probably that shitty stuff you bought that needed refrigerated. What the fuck?
Yeah. I have seen like since the kind of whiskey renaissance, these chain stores I go in are actually getting better vermouths as the years go by. It used to just be, your bottom shelf $4, $5 bottle of vermouth, but now you'll see that Carpano at the stores and all that. So it's getting better, but it is notoriously hard to find
Mhm.
at a lot of stores. Is it in the liquor section or is it in the wine section or somewhere in between?
And yeah,
No one ever knows.
exactly. And from one store to the next, it is likely to be in a different area.
Why not just do now? I'm sure there's a reason for this from a like merchandising standpoint, but to me, it seems like to like the general public, like let's put yourself in the position of somebody who doesn't have a liquor podcast, right? Just somebody who like is going in for a party that they're having, goes into a liquor store. Why not just have the basic liquors in their sections and then just have like all the stuff to make cocktails all together? You know what I mean? Like I feel like sometimes there's stores where it's like you have like sort of like liqueur stuff over here, then you've got like on a completely different area of the store, you've got other stuff that's like the Luxardo cherries and things like that. You got like mixers somewhere else. It's like why not just combine all that stuff in one area?
I mean, a lot of stores do it. A lot of stores don't, though. It probably just depends on the shelf space they have. And these stores have it down to a science. You're going to walk into a department, first thing you're going to see is probably whiskey or vodka. And then the farther down you go, usually, you know, you'll see your rums at the end of a section, things like that. But I have a couple stores recently in the last year who have their own sections now, and stores are doing, nice little displays of vermouth, simple syrup, or they'll have the cherry. So it's becoming more common, but it's all down to a science. Whatever's going to make the money is going to be in the best positions. So you'll have to search for for whatever is not as popular.
Yeah. Uh, for the listeners, one thing that to keep in mind actually is that there's 2 different styles of vermouth, and for a Manhattan, you want the red vermouth. Rosso, I think is. How Ryan, you would know. Is it Rosso? What is
I
it?
say Rosso. Yeah.
Okay, but
But
it's red. It's
yeah.
red. That's going to be a sweet vermouth. Then there's a white vermouth, which is probably Blanco. Is that
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
A Blanco or a white vermouth is going to be used for a martini, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or Bianca, or sometimes I call them like Blancs too, Blanc vermouth. But
Okay.
usually the stores, at least in my world, just sweet and dry is usually the title of the section.
Mhm.
Unless you're a little more sophisticated store.
But I think I've always seen like all of the vermouth is in one section. I've never seen it to where like red's over here and white's over here. Even though like what Steven's kind of talking about is that it would almost actually make more sense to split it up, because nobody just buys vermouth and just drinks vermouth. You don't do that. So it would make more sense for me to, I think, based off what Steven is talking about, which I don't think is a terrible idea for once, is keep the red with the whiskey and the bourbon and the white with the gin and the vodka.
Yeah,
I
or
think
like
that's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with it.
even stuff like the like the bourbon cream, for instance. You just put that like the bourbon area, because I get it's not bourbon, but to me it's like this the same audio. I mean, again, these guys have more intellects than I do. They're probably right about this, but just my mind says that that's your market anyway, for the most part. It's not that there's people who probably don't go down the bourbon aisle at all that would buy bourbon cream, and that's why it's outside of it. But you can forget it's there. You can forget it's something to try. Otherwise, I don't know.
And it's weird. You'll see vermouth a lot of the times by dessert wines. Riuniti, sometimes like Stella Rosa, which is an Italian like sweet red wine, and you just don't really know where to go or why it's there. I mean, you're going to use vermouth in either with gin or with whiskey. It should be somewhere closer to that instead of the other side of the store and underneath underneath some Lambrusco that people don't drink as much because it's not the 80s.
Hey, is Ryan, this is probably, well, maybe Steven, I don't know. So do you use a dry vermouth in a vodka martini or only in a gin martini?
I believe he used for both.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
So-
dry vermouth.
So like I didn't know if a vodka martini was just vodka or if it was vermouth and, well, that's it. That would be
I've always
it.
used it in gin martinis, but I never made a vodka martini while I worked. So
Oh, you haven't?
no, I mean, it wasn't a real big popular place I worked kind of in a hole in the wall type place, so
Yeah.
we weren't really getting many vermouth drinkers.
Okay.
We did
So
why the hell are you ordering a vermouth or a martini here?
Yeah. My favorite
Bloomington.
martini is a Three Olives vodka martini. I think like to me that's a damn good martini. And I've
Yeah.
tried the Reka that you told me about. I don't like a Reka martini. I like a
No.
Reka in my Bloody Marys. That's a good Bloody Mary vodka, but not a good martini vodka, in my opinion.
Oh, by the way, so the Maker's Mark new stave is Mendiant. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Mendiant. Mendiant stave. It's the new stave that's replacing the Mocha stave. I don't know if for good or for this batch or for now or whatever.
Man, this is
right,
terrible. This is terrible because here's the thing. I'm actually a Maker's Mark ambassador, and I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Hey, Maker's Mark, that doesn't say much for your ambassador program. What the shit? Is that still going on? Like the flavored vodkas, is that still a big thing?
That's still a big thing. I mean, rums are still doing it, but not to the effect that it used to be, But yeah, you still see a lot of flavored vodkas.
Okay, so I have a rum question for you, Ryan. There's something called a Solera rum. Is that a style of rum or is it a brand? Do you know?
Solera, it's the Solera system.
Okay.
So it's been a few years. Basically, I'm a little rusty on it. I know it's.
Should I just throw out my? Should I throw out my understanding and tell me if I'm right or wrong, and you can go from there? Okay.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that every type of rum, except for Solera, and I don't know why, and that's what I want to get from you, is a rum that's been aged 10 years. No, let's put it this way. So I'm going to blend a bunch of rums together because that's not uncommon in rum and it's not uncommon in bourbon or whiskey either. But I blend it and some of them are a couple barrels of 5-year, a couple barrels of 7-year, and a little bit of 22-year aged rum. All of those types of rums would have to be labeled as a 5-year rum because that's the lowest, the shortest aged rum of what was combined. But for some reason, Solera can use the 22-year aged as the age statement instead of the 5-year, because Solera is able to identify like the oldest aged, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. It's been a long time, man. I know Solera. I think they could use really young rum mixed in there as well. See, I
Correct.
It was the blend, right? So it does.
Right.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, all of the other rums, they have to use the youngest age statement as their label age statement. But like with Solera, if they use literally one shot glass into a barrel full of rum of 22-year-old rum, they can label that as 22-year-old rum when all it's got is one shot's worth of that age, and everything else is aged a year and a half. And I'm just curious as to why.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I am not sure. I feel like a jagoff for not knowing.
Well, I mean, you are a jagoff, but not
I'm a jagoff
for that reason.
Yeah.
And this is not another rum show. This is another bourbon show. That's true. So
that's true. And to my credit, not a lot of people drink rum. I'm gonna Google it. Hold on, because that's gonna bug me. Because I remember on my like set test, the wine and spirits exam, there were questions about the Solera system.
Because it's weird. Yeah,
I know Solera system's used in port or sherry. I think sherries as well. It's a common way of making sherry. Hold on. I mean, on the ground, when it comes to aging liquids in this particular way, the barrels are organized. That's right. Okay. It's organized from the ground up. Lower layers of barrels contain the oldest aged liquid. And then they're all kind of blended together to make a rum. So I'm guessing they could label it as that just because they do use the oldest aged rum and then everything on top, and it's all bottled that way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Now, I'll admit,
the young rum is influenced in terms of maturity by the older rum in the barrel into which it has been placed. The average age of the rum increases as the rum moves through the system.
All right, well, I mean, in the end, I don't really give a shit, because in reality, I don't even give a shit about age statements on bourbon, right? Like, to me, it either tastes good or it doesn't taste good. And rum is secondary to bourbon and whiskey to me. But I will say that of the, like let's lump bourbon and whiskey together, whiskey is far and away my number one favorite type of liquor, but rum is my second favorite. I like rum a lot.
Which is probably why you like ryes a lot, you'd think. You get that spiciness from both, you know?
No, you don't.
I was trying to segue back into the Old Overholt. My bad. I'll let you guys continue on this collision course with nothingness.
Hey, Steven. Segment. Hey, Steven, out of curiosity, what is used to make rum?
So rum is a weird one because I have no fucking clue.
It's fucking sugarcane, you dumb shit.
All right, well, listen,
How do you get spice and pepper? Okay? How do you get spice and pepper from fucking sugarcane? You don't.
Well, yeah, but there's spiced rum.
Yeah, but that spice is added.
Okay.
It's not natural, you dumb son of a bitch.
I'm not saying it's natural, but if you like rum, it doesn't matter what's naturally in shit. I'm just saying that if somebody said you like rum and you're trying to get them into whiskey, would you or would you not recommend a rye?
I would not.
Well, that's how you and I differ.
So you know what's funny is you guys know about St. Louis Bourbon Society at least, right? I don't think you guys are actually part of it, right?
Right.
Okay. So St. Louis Bourbon Society is 6,000 people. 6,000 plus. The same people who organize and run the St. Louis Bourbon Society also run the St. Louis Rum Society. Do you know how many people are part of the St. Louis Rum Society? Like 60 fucking 4. Right? Like,
Yeah.
but they call it 40. So
it'll have its day.
That's come on, that was a great inside St. Louis joke.
I'm just saying, JT Aiken already told us the same fun fact.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
But did you catch? Okay, but did you catch my inside St. Louis joke?
64.
You didn't.
Members?
I said there's like 64 members of St. Louis Rum Society, but they call it 40.
Is that interstate joke?
Okay, I get you. The little interstate joke for you.
God, that's a fucking solid inside joke that you just fucking whiffed on. Jesus.
Listen,
For
man.
me or Steven? I don't live down there.
I just live here, okay, man?
You live off 70, so what do you know?
Yeah, not much, I tell you. But I do know. I know if you should buy a whiskey or not based on how it tastes. Okay, that's what I do know, and that's why I'm here. Not here. You guys are like the guys who are just like, oh, you make this and this and this.
Yeah, we went pretty far off topic tonight, didn't we?
Yeah. And we didn't talk at all so far about Old Overholt. That's why I was trying to steer us back to, and you were just shitting on me mercilessly. But here we are, still not talking about Old Overholt. And I've been shit on, but I mean, you know.
Okay, fine. Give it a fucking rating, Steven.
Drink some rum now.
Okay, so I think Old Overholt, it's really interesting that's a Jim Beam product because I think the thing I would compare it most to is actually Jim Beam White Label. I'm not saying I like it the same or anything, but I think it is to rise, at least the rise I've had, it is to rise a little bit what Jim Beam White Label is to other bourbon.
So nothing spectacular.
Nothing spectacular. It's kind of what we said at the time was it, or at least what I said at the time, I remember about Jim Beam White Label whenever I tasted it during the Jim Beam Black episode. It was like tasting it, and it's like watered down kind of bourbon, and you just taste it real quick, and you're like, yeah, that was a bourbon flavor, and it's kind of gone. I think with Old Overholt Bonded, when I taste it, probably because of the proof there, it's more flavorful than Jim Beam White Label. I'm not going to say that it's, the same really watery taste or anything, but my reaction is the same. After I drink it, I'm like, yeah, that was a right, whiskey. So I'm going to be giving this guy a 6.2 because I think that it's still a chunk better than Jim Beam White Label. But at the same time, I think that it's still best. Like you said, it's not a sipper. I feel the same way after having sipped it. And I think it's best kind of being mixed. So I wouldn't feel good giving it too much higher than a 6.2. But in comparison to the Jim Beam White Label, I think that it's a little bit better, but I think it's, out of the stuff we drank so far, it's most closely associated with it for those reasons.
Absolutely fair. Totally fair. Right?
I agree. I mean,
you're up.
Now that you said, I mean, I know we talked about it earlier, but it being a Jim Beam product, that the nuttiness I get more than like any baking spice, any pepper, or it kind of lacks, at least drinking it straight, like the shades of a classic rye. I mean, I taste the pepper, a little saltiness to it. It's good. It does remind me just pretty much every Jim Beam product out there. Legion's a little bit better, but I'm going to go with 6.5. I feel like it would be better in a Manhattan or in an old fashioned, but
Manhattan.
Or a Manhattan, excuse me, but I don't have any sweet vermouth here, so I can't be the judge of that. Mm-hmm. It's good though. I could drink it straight. I mean, I'm going to have no problem finishing it, but I feel like it just kind of lacks the spice that I was looking for. It's a little too nutty and kind of easy to drink. Like I was looking for that extra punch, and I just didn't get it.
So yeah, so Ryan, I'm not going to argue with your. What did you give it? A 6,
6.5.
7, 6.5?
Yeah,
Steven, you gave it a 6.4,
6.2.
6.2. Okay, I'm actually going to like as a neat drink, like drinking it neat. I'm giving it a 5.4. I'm not a fan of drinking Old Overholt neat. It is a good rye. Don't get me wrong. But it's nothing spectacular. This is not something that I'm like, man, I'm really looking forward to having this tonight. It's what am I in the mood for? I don't know. I want something spicy though. Let's have Old Overholt Bonded. That's the reason I give it that rating neat. However, in a Manhattan, I give it an 8.7.
wow.
To me, Old Overholt or Rittenhouse, they make the perfect Manhattan. And I hope that next week, when we drink the Rittenhouse, you guys have some vermouth and some bitters in order to give it a try as a Manhattan. Because to me, it is really, really, really good. Almost perfect as a Manhattan mixer.
I'll have some,
And for,
dude. Don't
and
worry,
for 24
dude.
bucks, like, you can't go wrong.
Another Bourbon Show. Another Bourbon Show. Another Bourbon Show.
Yeah, I can't really do much about this fucking birds chirping, but I wish they were gone also. Trust me.
I got a 12 gauge.
So that was Jesse's idea.
We don't have a bird. It's just outside. It's just I have a shitty apartment.
Oh.